We're looking at passive. So I've put this document up in front of you so that you can see what is the passive, how do we make the passive. And the passive is made basically by adding the verb to be into the verb complex and using the verb to be to show that this is passive. And if you look at my list in front of you, you'll be able to see that I've highlighted the verb to be in the passive form. And I just want you to kind of feel passive, because it's not going to be easy to learn to memorize the form for each and every tense in each and every aspect. That's not going to be easy. The best way to do this is to just feel how the verb to be is added to form the passive. So let's have a look at that first, and then we'll try doing an exercise together. So make is the active form of the verb. For example, I make fish and chips for dinner every Monday. Yeah, I make. That's active. But if I want to change that sentence to passive, I say fish and chips are made every Sunday. Yeah, or are cooked, are prepared. You don't have to use the verb make. You can use other verbs as well. But you've got to say fish and chips are made. Yeah, and we add that verb to be, are. It's got to be there. And the example you can see in front of you is, where are Toyota cars made? Yeah, they are made in Japan. Yeah, and so remember this, 2 words in passive and 1 word in active. Yeah, the verb complex is only 1 word in active, but in passive it's 2 words, and I think that's very important. If we look at other tenses, it will even be 3 words for continuous tenses and perfect tenses. But for the simple tenses, it's just is or are made and was or were made for past tense. Now, I hope that your language does something similar and uses the verb to be, because that will make this a lot easier. And I'm well aware that Russian certainly does something very similar to this to make their passive forms. It's not the only way, but it does something very similar to this. So I hope that your language is similar and also uses this verb to be to make passive forms. So we've got made in past active. Yeah, I made a sand castle yesterday when I went to the beach. Yeah, I made a sand castle. But if I wanted to make that into passive, I say the sand castle was made. Yeah, on the beach. The sand castle was made. Okay, fish and chips is not. Fish and chips singular? Sorry, I sometimes get a question and it it means I have to talk about a different topic for a second. So really, fish and chips, well, I suppose as a dish, it's considered singular, and with the and in the middle, it's clearly plural, okay? And so that's a subject-verb agreement question. And yeah, I mean, I agree that you can say fish and chips is made in this restaurant. Nothing wrong with that at all, because it's a meal, because it's a dish. In that sense. So yeah, but that's really subject-verb agreement. That's not exactly what we're doing at the moment, but subject-verb agreement is important. So when was the Kremlin built? Yeah, or when was this essay written? Yeah, that would be past simple, passive, and we need 2 words. We need was written, was built. Yeah, we need 2 words in passive, not just 1, even though I made a sandcastle, you just got made in the verb complex. Okay, then we've got is or are making, which will become is or are being made. So it's 3 words for the continuous tense. And that makes sense because they are already 2 words in active. So you've got to add the verb to be to make it passive. And you add it as a being because it's continuous, yeah? So is being made or are being made here. So I've given you the example of my flat is being redecorated. Something like that. Yeah, you got is being redecorated. 3 words. Same for past tense, you know, past continuous. It's just was being made as opposed to was making or were making. So you might say something like, when I came home, he was reading a book. But you can also say a book was being read when I came home. A book was being read. Yeah, and notice as well that the only change from present continuous is being read, was being read. It's quite intuitive, a lot of the forms here. It's what a lot of the forms are what you would expect to find. Okay, so they're the two continuous forms, and then the perfect forms, which most people have heard already. Has made goes to has been made, and have made goes to have been made, and had made, the past perfect, goes to had been made. Yeah. So I've given you the example of we have been married, most really common example for passive, for 3 years. And then I've got they had been married for 3 years before getting divorced. They had been married for 3 years before getting divorced. Yeah. Okay, and with all the modal verbs, and will is a modal verb. Yeah, it is a modal verb. All modal verbs go the same way. It's will be made, can be made, would be made, should be made, could be made, might be made, may be made. Yeah, all of them work in the same way. Okay, you add that verb to be after the modal and then have the third form of the verb. So the car will be repaired next week. And yes, you can put going to into passive. You can say is going to be repaired next week. I think you hear will be repaired more often than is going to. So let's try an exercise now. And this exercise is going to test your tenses, perhaps even more than your passive. But it's always good to test these tenses. And I particularly like English File for teaching tenses. English File is a student book. It's been around for years and years and years. It was already old when I started using it when I was in my early 20s. But I really like the way they teach tenses. I think that they constantly remind you that signal words and things like that are the best way to understand tenses. So if we look at number 1 on this exercise, and I'm going to try and blow it up a little bit bigger because it doesn't look very big to me. Let's try getting it a little bit bigger. There we go. So number 1, this bill is a lot. Now we've got a space and then service. I think it should be the service personally, but you could drop the article here, and then another word. Now we're looking for a passive form because all of these are in passive. It's part of the exercise that you're doing only passive practice here, and I hope you can see what tense do we use for something like the service, which is something that is either always included in the bill or never included in the bill. And because of this, we really want to use a simple tense, surely, not a continuous tense, because this is something that is always true or never true or regularly true. And so certainly we need present simple, not past, because it's always included. Yeah. So here you need is service included. Yeah. Or is the service included? And we're asking, has that been included in the bill? Is it generally included in the bill in this restaurant? Yeah. And notice I just used present perfect in passive. Has the cost been included in the bill? Yeah. Has the service been included? So you can use different tenses, but it's most common here we would use present simple because we're talking about something which is always true for the restaurant. But there's nothing wrong with saying, has the service been included? And if you say that to the waiter, they will understand you and think you speak good English. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with saying that, has the service been included? But slightly different meaning from is the service included? But both would be appropriate, I must admit. So number 2, oh no, I can't see my car. I think it... Now, with this, oh no, I can't see my car right now, this means that we must use a certain tense. We must use a tense which refers to the past, but with a present result. And there's only one tense that does this, and it's present perfect. Yeah, we really need present perfect in number 2. It can't be, I think it was stolen. It can't be past simple. And some of you may have thought that looks like was stolen to me. But it wouldn't work, not with the, oh no, I can't see my car. That's a present result. You can't even see the car. You can't find it. And that's why it's much better to say, I think it has been stolen, because you can see that it has gone. Yeah. And for that reason, because you can see it has gone, you really ought to use present perfect for this one. Okay, so anytime when you've got a present result, please do, if it's a past action, please do use present perfect. It will sound good. So has been stolen. We've got the verb to be in the middle. We've got present perfect in passive. Okay, number 3, does Joe know he's been sacked? No, he yet. Now, I want you to focus on yet here, because yet is how I know that we need the present perfect. Yeah, that's how I know. God, what am I doing with this? We know we need the present perfect. I'll just keep it here. I seem to have problems putting that on. We know we need the present perfect because of the word yet. Okay, it's that word yet that means we definitely need present perfect. And I'm going to quickly remind you that yet, already, just, ever, never, for, since, already. Yeah, maybe I've said that already. Maybe I have said that already. But they're your main signal words. Also today, this week, this month, and maybe, well, we won't talk about future perfect, but they're the ones for present perfect that I want you to memorize. It makes using it much easier. So no, he hasn't been told. 3 words, yeah, because present perfect hasn't been told yet. Okay, number 4, all books should. Should's a modal verb, so we need to put a modal into the passive. And modals in the passive are easy. Remember, modals are always followed by infinitive. You will never see modal verb and then a different form than the infinitive if you've got a verb. You'll never see it. It's always infinitive. So if we're going to add to be, we've got to have the infinitive without to, of course, because we say can go, must go, would go, should go. And that's why it's going to be should be, must be, can be, might be, may be. We just want the verb to be in the infinitive without to. So should be returned. Yeah, and we need that returned because we're using the past participle, and that's how we make the passive. We always use the past participle. We never use the present participle. Yeah, it's always the past participle that usually ends in ed for regular verbs. But told is not regular, and so should be. He hasn't been told, or say it should be returned. Returned is regular. Okay, why are you staying with your sister? Okay, why am I staying with my sister? Well, I suppose it's because my flat is in the middle of being redecorated. So my flat is being redecorated. 3 words. And because this is continuous, we've got being and not been. Yeah, being is being redecorated. And it's because you're in the middle of redecorating your flat. Clearly, that's what we want to mean here. We want to imply that we're in the middle of this process. So my flat is being redecorated. Okay, number 6, when? Well, this is future we're talking about here, next Friday. So we're just going to use will. And remember, will's a modal verb. So this will look exactly like should. Just like we said, should be returned. Now we're going to say, when will it be finished? Will be finished. Yeah, when will it be finished? Next Friday, I hope. Okay, let's go a little bit further down. He drove carefully because he by a police car. I hope you can feel which tense we need to use here. We've got past simple, he drove, and don't we want to say that he drove carefully because he was in the middle of being followed by a police car? Don't we want to say that he was in the middle of that process, that process hadn't finished at that moment? The police car was following him when he drove home. Yeah, so was following. So we need past continuous. And that's why we changed this to he was being followed. Yeah, we had is being redecorated. Now we've got was being followed. Past continuous passive. Okay, and as I said, this is really testing your tenses, in my opinion, just as much as your passive. Okay, have a look at the next one. Why have you left Lassie outside? Because dogs, now generally every day, every week, every month, dogs aren't allowed in here. We need present simple here, right? Because it's every day, every week, every month. Dogs are never allowed in here, so aren't allowed. Okay, why was your plane so late? Because all the flights... So do we want to say here that the plane was late because of something that happened earlier? And I think we do, which is why this one, because all the flights had been delayed and we had to wait. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with saying were delayed because all the flights were delayed and we had to wait. But I think you could easily say had been delayed and everyone will understand you because you're saying that this happened before the plane was so late. The flights had been delayed earlier in the day. Okay, let's go on to number 10. When they arrived home, they discovered that all their windows Now, surely we're talking about something that happened before they arrived home. Before they arrived home, all their windows had been broken. Again, 3 words, guys. Past perfect this time, not have been married, but had been broken. And we need past perfect here because we're talking about an event that happened earlier than arrived and earlier than discovered. So earlier than the 2 previous past simple verbs, we definitely need past perfect to make it clear the order of events. So when they arrived, they discovered all their windows had been broken. Good morning to Argentina. So number 11 now. I don't like, and then 2 words, by men with moustaches. Now here, after the verb like, we always see a gerund. Yeah, we see an ing word. And that's why if we're going to make this passive, we need to add the verb to be. So let's add it, but let's do it as we would for after the verb like, which is the gerund, being. So I don't like being, and then past participle, kissed by men with moustaches. And this is how we make passive with gerunds. You can make passives with 2+ infinitives as well. And so to make to go passive, you just add the verb to be gone. Yeah, add the verb to be and then past participle. So if we want to make passive, it would turn into to be made. Yeah, and so this is how we form passive with gerunds and infinitives. With gerunds, it will become being and the past participle, and with 2+ infinitive, it will be to be and past participle, to be known, to be believed, to be understood, something like that. Okay, number 12, does this shirt have to be ironed? Yeah, 2+ infinitive have to be ironed. So be ironed, the verb to be and the past participle. How did Manchester United do yesterday? Badly. They were beaten. Yeah, this is yesterday, so past simple. They were beaten by Charlton, 5-0. We've got a signal word in number 14. We've got yet again. Now, remember, yet already, just, ever, never, for, since, today, this week, this month. So has this novel been translated into French yet? We need 3 words because have done goes to have been done. Okay, and last one, number 15, it's a beautiful old house. Now here we're saying when, so we know it's going to be past simple, not present perfect. When was it built? Yeah, and we need the verb to be and the past participle again. So you can see there's a pattern with passive in English. And you can see that you don't really need to learn the pattern for each and every tense because it will just roll off the tongue if you remember that it's always adding the verb to be to the active form. Yeah, you're adding the verb to be to make it passive, to make it clear that it's passive. Okay, so that was an intermediate class really on different forms of the verb in active and in passive. And I think really here we're revising tenses more than anything else as well. And we can do that quite often. I actually recommend that you do keep practicing with your tenses as often as possible. Okay, so thanks everybody for watching. There's a class on passive. I might come back in a few minutes for another class. I haven't decided yet, but we shall see. And so do hang around or do keep an eye out for when a new class becomes available. And do go to my website, skype-lessons.com for any new classes. Okay, that's fine, Xavier. If you want to be my student, just get in touch with me. You know, send me an email. And if you're not sure about my email, I can put it up right now. It's this. It's a character from a Charles Dickens novel. Very famous character from a Charles Dickens novel, Seth Pecksniff. So just get in touch with us, or you can get in touch with us on my website as well. You can fill in the form on my website, and I will send you a message back. And certainly we do exam classes, and certainly I recommend writing 2 essays for every class. My price includes feedback and corrections, and I'll correct 2 essays for every class. So if you would like to prepare for CAE with me, please get in touch. I'd be delighted. And do remember, everybody, that if you want to learn as a group, you're going to get a cheaper price. I don't make more expensive lessons for bigger groups. It's all the same price for me, whether it's 1 person or 4 people or 10 people. So do bear that in mind if you feel that the price is a little bit hard for you to afford. I understand. Find somebody else to study with, and you will find that the price can become much more, a lot more reasonable, perhaps, or a lot more easier to afford. Okay, so thanks everybody for watching. I do appreciate all the support, and I hope to see you all soon.